Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 33 of season 2 of Gunners and Blues. My name is Sean Morgan. I am joined by Andrew Gump, and it is our Chelsea-centric episode for this week. And it is a pretty good one. We are on the back of a pretty decisive Chelsea victory. Decisive more in the second half than in the first half, but a decisive victory nonetheless. And I think a lot of really solid performances. Definitely some I was very impressed with, and we're going to dive into that. So we've got, of course, talking about the match result, talking about some individual performances, some good, some bad. We want to talk a little bit about your boy, Timo Werner, and. Maybe some tactical talk, and again, I'm congratulating you as an individual for your club being at the top of the league. I'm not congratulating Chelsea. I could give a fuck less, but I want my friends to be happy. So congratulations, top of the league.
It feels good. I mean, I did actually call this, right? I did call this. I said, Man City, Liverpool are drawing. We're winning. We'll be top of the league. And all of this, it's a crisis at Chelsea will be done. Yeah, man, I'm ready to talk about the game. I'm going to start off by making sure there's an expletive on this one.
Fuck.
Mike Dean. Mike Dean. Well, first of all, thanks for taking my thunder. Mike Dean is a shit cunt. And I cannot believe the nonsense that I have had to deal with this man as an official. We're gonna get into it, like I said, in the match review, and it's kind of interesting. You said we were, maybe more decisive in the second half. I think it was all because Mike Dean decided he didn't want us to be decisive in the first half because, if we could turn back time. No, I'm not going deep into that song because that is going to hurt both people's ears and their hearts. Anyway, start off. Perfect lineup from Thomas Tuchel. Now, if anyone's listened to our podcast for a certain amount of time, people will know that I myself am not a massive fan of Jorginho's style of play. I softened to it, obviously, because he performed at a very admirable level. But this was the sort of game that makes a supporter, or I would hope makes a supporter realize kind of what you miss when you play Jorginho. You'd maybe lose some of the defensive solidity, the sort of metronomic passing, but what you gain is another player that can affect things on the other end of the pitch and offers a threat. Because very often, like, we had one shot on goal in the last two games leading up to this. It was night and day. Yes, the opposition is incredibly different. I'm not going to lie. Like, Southampton are just on level with Juventus and Man City, 100%. But at the same time, our style of play was, I think, defined very distinctly by Ruben Loftus-Cheek in Jorginho's role. And as I told everyone, Ruben Loftus-Cheek was my second great academy love. The first was Josh McEachran, which was wrong, stupid, and I was just dumb and wrong and stupid. So just repeat it, going both ways. But Ruben Loftus-Cheek, to see his story, to see him put into it that sixth role, that after the first two managers that used him as a 10, and Antonio Conte wanted to use him as a striker, and Tuchel's like, really? Guys, you okay, bro? He puts him back as a defensive, and he looked great. He looked absolutely great. And it just felt so good to see him out there on the pitch. It felt good to have a midfielder, a sixth, that is willing to drive forward and affect the game offensively as much as he is defensively. So that was a great call by Tuchel. Chalobah getting the start, I did call it. Scoring the opening goal, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Chalobah is now our top scorer at Stamford Bridge this season, so don't think Jules Koundé is going to be getting that move anytime soon.
Yeah, he's Chalobah's trying to fill that Zuma role.
I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Zuma was a great character on the pitch, but he's already more than filled the Zuma role.
No, I mean,
He offers
in
something.
regards to goal scoring.
Oh, that's true. That is true. But I mean, he is just. It's so cool, like to see the academy, Cal Hudson-Odoi getting a start, who played very, very well, got to play in his actual position. For I think maybe he started the actual position the first time under Tuchel. That is actually the first time he started in his preferred position under Tuchel. Ruben Loftus-Cheek getting the start, Trevor Chalobah getting the start. It looked so good, so good. We were so much more aggressive, and actually, I have to tip my hat to the Austrian who went from being much loved to much maligned on this cast. He did set out to press our midfield, which would have worked if we'd played Jorginho. And I kind of doubt that my boy Hassan Hoodle was like, you know what, they'll start Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Maybe he doesn't listen to our cast. You know, maybe he should.
He should. Well, hopefully,
maybe he should.
Hopefully, he actually maybe a good thing he doesn't, because otherwise he'd probably, fuck this guy.
Fuck that guy. No, yeah, I haven't said many flattering things about him lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they came out to press, but we were able to break the press. Chalobah, Ruben Loftus-Cheek actually both were breaking out from deeper positions, breaking through the lines, which was very impressive. Chilwell, the funny thing about Chilwell in that game is I feel like if that goal doesn't go in, Timo doesn't go that second, and then Chilwell doesn't get that third goal, I feel like our discussion about Ben Chilwell takes a very different light, because that tackle on Tino Livramento, I had very, very, very unchoice words to say about my boy Benjamin Chilwell. I like to make fun of his hair products that he uses, because it's very greasy looking hair. It's very strange. I don't know why, and then there was a lot of expletives. Expletives I wouldn't even say on this show that followed the hair gel comments. I wasn't happy, and it was so clumsy, right? That foul was so goddamn clumsy.
That is the type of tackle that you see a player who has not seen the pitch consistently during a season make. Like 100%.
Yep.
It's one of those things that, is like, I need to, I'm on the pitch, I need to make a big move, and it just backfires tremendously. Yeah. I think thankfully things went in such a positive direction for him during, the latter half of the match, that it didn't put that particular tackle as a distant memory, but it at least softened the impact.
Yeah, Southgate's basically like Twitter timeline fans over there. He's like, well, Ben Chilwell's good that second half. Pops him right in the England squad. With Reece James falling out because he found out that Reece James was actually injured for 4 to 6 weeks. Something that was very easily accessible. You could have typed in, Chelsea FC, Reece James injury news. Yeah, I don't know if he knows how to Google or not. I would hope so, but
Gareth Southgate still using Alta Vista.
I do have to say, just on a quick side note, definitely a tangent, congratulations to Tammy Abraham and Tamori for both getting called up to the England squad. You may not be with Chelsea anymore, but I'm over the moon for them. I think most Chelsea supporters want to see the academy graduates do well, regardless of whether they're playing for Chelsea. So congratulations. Back to the game. Timo Werner then puts in a very good goal, good header. Doesn't miss the target at all. I actually think every one of Timo Werner's shots was on target in that game. Yep. Let me check. Yep. Every single. So that is a change already, right? That is a change already. But also he puts in the back of the net. And then Mike Dean. And I don't know if I have a very active imagination. And, Mike Dean sitting in some, I think like the RV or something, making these decisions. I like to think that he had like Motorhead in the background playing Born to Raise Hell. He's like, well, Timo Werner scored, but I'm going to find something. So what he does is he rewinds the game 17 seconds, finds what could only be called a soft foul. In Sean's words, apparently an attempted murder. But what I would call
massacred a man.
Massacred the man. And I always like to, when you look at the pitch, look at players' reactions. Kyle Walker-Peters didn't even ask for a foul, right? That the player did not ask for a
He
foul.
was dead.
And
How could he have asked for one?
That's true. He just, was revived and came right back and played the rest of the match. But yeah, so Mike Dean just decides, hey, Martin Atkinson, 17 seconds ago, there was a real light foul. Not in this phase of play, which is actually the rules, but I'm going to see if we can somehow figure a way of making sure Timo doesn't get this goal. And, well, with Born to Race Hell playing in the background, the Mad Lad did it. The Mad Lad was able to strip another goal away from Timo Werner. This is the 16th time that Timo Werner has had an official take a ball that was back in the net, take that goal away from him. This one was probably the most egregious. You can always kind of forgive a ref on the pitch because it's all very quick. But the fact that Mike Dean was sitting in some trailer somewhere, fucking blasting Motorhead, and decided that this was his time. This was the time to take away all of my joy and take away Timo Werner's joy. I was upset. I was very upset. So we go into halftime, 1-0 up, but I'm not feeling great.
He was he was probably rewatching his appearance on Ted Lasso over and over, like, that's a good actor right there.
That is a good actor. I've been called worse. Fuck you, Mike Dean. But anyway, going to the second half, I have a terrible feeling. It's one of those things where, that goal stands 2-0. I feel like we're flying. Not a chance to catch up. And, lo and behold, one Benjamin Chilwell decides that he's tired of Tino Livramento. He should have, and just says, you know what? You're in the box now. Fuck you. Takes him out. Little 2-footer. Takes both of his legs. You could tell that he wasn't even going to attempt to argue. He looked at the officials like, are you blind? Realizes Martin Atkinson is not blind, and it's a penalty. James Ward-Prowse. Oh, go ahead.
They say he looks directly at Martin Atkinson. Are you impressed?
Sean did call it. Props to Sean. James Ward-Prowse does put the ball in the back of the net. I'm not feeling great. I'm like, well, I actually typed this on. We're going to lose this fucking game, aren't we? Because, Southampton had a little squall of pressure after the penalty. But then James Ward-Prowse giveth, and James Ward-Prowse taketh away. He decides that Jorginho, having been on the pitch for a minute, was 1 minute more than he wanted to see him. And
he told Chilwell, you know what? I could do this shit too.
I could do this shit too. Takes him out. Pretty bad tackle. I feel pretty confident it was a red card. People were saying it was not. I don't know. He went right into his ankle. It was bad. It definitely could have injured him. It's a good thing that, I'm pretty sure Jorginho weighs about $125 soaking wet, as he was soaking wet because the rain was pissing down. There wasn't too much weight on the leg. Red card. We dominate. Don't get anything. Then Thomas Tuchel does something that had my eye twitching a little bit and put on Ross Barkley again. I was like, oh, fucking Ross Barkley. Perfect. Mwah. And then what does Ross Barkley do? He pings out an absolute peach of a cross to Azpilicueta, who rolls it across the 6-yard box. Timo slots it in. And first and foremost, the worst thing about what Timo scores is I have to take 10 seconds. Like, okay, what's happening? What are they gonna do? What's my boy gonna do? What's my boy gonna do? Offside? Someone spit on a player back there. Mike Dean's coming on no, it was good. The goal stood 2-1. And then we man up. We then decide to play basically, I don't know, billiards in the box. Benjamin Chill gets his goal. It looked saved, right? If you're not in line with it, looks like it was saved by McCarthy, but it had gone over the line. 3-1. We see the game out. We go top of the table, and then Manchester City and Liverpool decide to do us the favor of drawing 2-2 with another stellar performance by the officials, by the way. How James Milner didn't get sent off, I guess, is for a completely different podcast, something we'll never talk about, but he should have been sent off. That was nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But hey, top of the league, going into the international break, which I have heard from... Oh my God, I lost the word. So I'm just going to stop. It was going to be a joke, but now I lost the word. So it just makes international break better. It was going to be a great joke. I fucked it. Let's be honest. I lost it. So, I mean, I'm assuming you watched the game. We talked about it as you went. So, what did you think of the match as a whole, Sean?
So there were definitely some players I think that really did impress me. And we talked about Chalobah already, but I legitimately feel if that game had stayed 1-1, right? If that red card hadn't have happened and that game had finished out 1-1, he probably would have been my man of the match. I feel like he was so incredibly impressive and resilient that it just has become increasingly tough, I think, to drop him from the lineup at certain times, and he's going to be fighting, I think, from some of the bigger matches. I mean, you guys play enough to where he's not going to see a shortage of minutes, but I think it's going to be a matter of you seeing either Silva or Christensen in the middle, and then not expecting to see them both in the same lineup too often. So that's
well, also because Silva has to go to Brazil, and he only gets back from Brazil on the day that our match against Brentford is played. So he can't be in that one.
Well, there you go.
Way to go, Brazilian FA.
I actually was somewhat impressed with Southampton. I feel like and this is something that you see. I know I've talked about it before, and we're going to see it throughout the entire season, especially considering right now you guys are at the top of the table. Mm-hmm. Teams will ramp up their game to play you. You are the defending European champions. We
are the mutts nuts.
Yeah. Jeez. Teams are going to want to try and play their best, right? Yeah. So you are going to week in, week out see that. I think Southampton, up until that red card, probably you could say deserved the draw. Now, you can talk about the disallowed goal you want.
Yeah.
I feel like they played about as well as you could have hoped. Once they went down to 10 men, it's pretty tough, right? It's generally pretty tough. There was a pretty big momentum swing, and that especially that the second goal was solid. That third goal was was some pinball. But I want to talk about something that you didn't, and a name that you didn't mention. This is another match where Lukaku kind of disappeared. And
really?
Yeah.
I thought he was incredible. I actually thought he was great.
What did he do?
I mean, it's one of those things where if you look at what he did, he held up the ball so well. And they decided their plan of attack against Chelsea was to stick two center backs on Lukaku. So as long as he holds the ball up long enough for either Timo or Callum Hudson-Odoi to get on, he's done his job in that sense. I know you want to see him get goals, but that was why Timo had so much space so often. They basically had two center backs on him the whole time, and it's what they've done. It's what teams have done the last 3 games. You basically stick your two center backs on him, but that should open up space. It was very different, with Callum Hudson-Odoi and Timo Werner actually making a difference. Whereas it works perfectly well when you have Hakim Ziyech and Kai Havertz playing grab ass.
I guess that's fair, because I mean, I can say, I did call for when we were talking about the match preview. If Pulisic was healthy, I think that would be, a pretty ideal situation for him as well. And so I don't know. I do wonder if there is this. I don't know, with this increased focus on trying to limit Lukaku, if there's a way for teams to effectively deal with that and, potentially stifle play, especially again, if you see, players like Havertz and Ziyech, because you can't play Werner every time. So I don't know.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ. You can play Timo every single game as far as that man is a machine.
Every day is Timo Day.
Exactly.
Every day is Timo
Day. And that's what I'd like to point out to. I know this is a slightly off topic. That's what I'd like to point out to Chelsea fans. Listen, I don't know if it's become very apparent or not. Timo Werner is probably my favorite current player at Chelsea. And he didn't start the beginning of the season, but I did not slander every other player that was playing ahead of Timo Werner. I just waited until he got his time to shine. And now he gets rubbed in all of your faces.
Oh, there you go. Well, let's.
But no, I can understand. From the outside looking in, it doesn't look like Lukaku is making the sort of impact you would like, and it's worrying me that I may have to sing on this podcast.
I was actually about to bring that up. I'm like, you know what? if I'm Thomas Tuchel and I know about this bet, I'm going to continue to use Lukaku and Werner this way because it's perfect. You called for it, right? You called for it. I want to see Lukaku and Werner in the same lineup, and now you did, and your punishment is that you're going to have to sing.
It's all right. I sing all the time at home. It's so fun. Like I said, I sang in a black metal band for like a year and a half. I'm not going to do that to you guys, I promise. But it would be hilarious if I pulled it out. If you ever wanted to hear Ring Race yell at you, then you could listen to that podcast.
Oh man. Oh, did you have any? I mean, we actually. So let me ask you, right? Because and then we can close it off. So I mean, right now, top of the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're couple months away from Christmas, which is really I think the barometer that or the time frame where being top of the table feels like it means a little bit more. We are still less than 10 matches into the season.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think relative to everybody else's position that would be challenging for the league, the ones that are considered traditionally challenging for the league title? Do you feel like you're in a? It sounds weird. This sounds like a very weird question considering you are at the top. Do you feel like you're in a good position considering the matches that have been played?
Definitely. Like, if you look at our strength of schedule, playing Arsenal, Liverpool, and Tottenham away. Now, two of those teams are no longer like perennial Big Sixes anymore, but still are tough games. We're +5.
We did the double over you last season, so it's still a generally tough fixture.
Well, I was about to say we're +5 points from last season, which would have brought up. But thank you, Sean. No, you did the double overs last season. I'm glad you got to get that in again. But what I said, we're +5 points on the same fixtures that we had last season, which just means we have 5 points better off the exact same. And we're looking at an incredibly not soft, because I think Brentford are a legitimately good team. Legitimately good team. But we're looking at, after that, a very soft run of games in which I would feel very disappointed if we didn't, basically pull out all wins and a draw the next 6 games, really. I know that sounds gluttonous, greedy, all those things, but at the same point in time, that's the sort of form you're going to need to win a league, where there's probably, in my opinion, there's like 3 free wins in this league. I think Norwich are a free win to a degree, except for Burnley. And I feel like there's a pretty big disparity between the top 4 at this, well, maybe the top 3, because United still kind of look like shit with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Maybe it's because he's not an actual manager. I don't know. But maybe the top 3 and below. Yeah. And it's you require that sort of form to, I think, make it out, of the season winning the league. And so I feel like we have the easiest schedule. We've had the hardest schedule of the big 3 teams going into this. So we should be set up very well. And, not winning the league at this point in time in the season, but we're set up very well to position ourselves as front runners. And, we can kind of stop hearing about people saying, well, Chelsea just need another season to catch up to Arsenal. We definitely don't need a season to catch up to Arsenal. That'd be going the wrong way with Liverpool and Man City. Yeah, it's actually a really good question. I do think we're pretty well positioned. What do you think? Do you think we're in a good spot?
It's weird, right? Because I feel as though we've seen this with like City in seasons past, where it's like here are the keys to the title. You've already earned it. Where they're basically the champions of the champions of September. And I feel like this is a much more competitive season than we've seen in seasons past. It feels like even though there is a clear, distinct cutoff between the teams that are legitimately challenging for the title and teams that are on similar points, there still feels like enough of a competitive edge, I think, to teams that are expected to finish between, I would say, 4th and 9th. That it's going to be interesting to see, for these teams that, I would say probably like 5 or 6 clubs, that how many points can they take off of you and City and Liverpool? I really feel like that's going to be what matters. Because, I mean, we see, you guys drew with Liverpool. City drew with Liverpool. You guys lost City. And I feel like there's a, there's just going to be some minor points trading there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be anything significant. But really, it's going to be down to how do you deal with these teams that are going to put, their best squad out against you. Like, how are you going to deal with the Brightons, right? How are you going to deal with, Leicester has kind of fallen a bit off of a cliff. But, I mean, like I said, there are these teams that are going to legitimately potentially take points off. So even though schedules may get easier, I feel like there's an opportunity for a lot of parity. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously you're at the top of the table. It's easy to say, this feels great. This is going to continue to feel great. I feel like being at the top of the table means ever so slightly less this season than it may have in a couple of seasons past, if only because there doesn't seem that clear-cut momentum of running away with it, right? It feels like
Gotcha.
this is very competitive. I'm not trying to take away from...
No. I mean, I agree. I definitely agree. But what I will say is, you were asking how we would deal with all those, those teams that are going to put out their best teams. Have you ever thought, Sean, maybe we'll just win? That's a good way of dealing with it, don't you think?
I mean, sure. That's. I hear that's pretty good. I hear finishing with 3 points is better than 1 or 0. It's better than 1.
So I mean, just simple maths. Three is great.
Simple maths.
It's pure maths, bro. I learned from the best. I learned from Arteta. Pure maths.
Pure maths.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think that's going to be it for us. As always, I want to thank Particle Docs for our wonderful intro and outro music. We are throwing up a link to this episode as well as our Arsenal episode on our Twitter and our Facebook. And if you are watching us on YouTube, hi. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find our YouTube channel on our link tree in addition to all of the other major podcast platforms that we're on. Our link tree is linktr.ee/gunnersblues. And we will not be doing a midweek madness or a Thursday, Friday episode as we have. The international break is going to kind of prevent really anything interesting, I think, from being talked about in regards to club news. And then as far as midweek madness goes, if you've been watching this episode, I've been sweating my balls off. It's because my AC is out and I record in a room that doesn't have windows. So it is very hot, and I don't want to be back here any longer than I have to. But, I mean, really, that's ultimately what it is. So we're going to take
100% honesty. 100% honesty from us. Yeah. And if you like what you see, guys, just DM me for Sean's OnlyFans.
Oh, yeah. It's
gonna sweat through that white shirt.
It's exclusive access. Hey, this is an Arsenal shirt, see?
I know.
Yeah, got the yeah. So I mean, it's also my birthday coming up this week. So I did end up taking a couple of days off of work. And so I will celebrate 1 year closer to death, and the sweet release that will come.
Jesus. Macabre way to end this episode.
I know.
First of all, I went from your OnlyFans to death, which is also a very disturbing thing, Sean.
Hey, we gotta, we're all here about that contrasting. It's we gotta represent both sides, bro. Both sides. Yep. We are an enlightened centrist podcast. On that note, we're gonna go before we fucking derail ourselves anymore.
It's getting worse and worse, guys.
On behalf of Andrew, my name is Sean. We are Gunners and Blues. We are signing out. Have a good one, everybody.
See you guys.